time I've gone into a salon and mentioned that I was an investigator, every single time, one woman goes,
As well as a PI, I'm also a bounty hunter, which means that when somebody skips bond, I get to hunt them down and arrest them. I often work these cases solo, but today I'm working with my partner, Joel. Right now, I'm on the tail of a wanted fugitive named Karen Coleridge, who has been hiding out in the Northern District of Nashville, Tennessee. I've been looking for Karen for about a month.
Ready to go.
all right, showtime.
I first came to Nashville in 2001 because I wanted to be a singer, like everybody else. It didn't quite work out. In 2008, my mom was killed in a head-on collision. It really changed what I even wanted in life. I started out working as a paralegal, but as it turns out, I learned that I have a little bit of a knack for private investigation. Essentially, I guess my mom's case was my first case. Got all the evidence together that I could to be sure that we would get justice for my mom. I believe it's my calling to fight for justice. There's a lot more to PI work than just infidelity cases. I specialize in unsolved homicide, cold cases, and criminal defense cases. Marcus Lipham is an attorney that I've worked for a while now, and he has this client named Justin Williams, who's been in jail for a couple years pending murder charges. In defense cases, cops aren't on your side. That's why you hire a PI like me to investigate the case. Tennessee does still have the death penalty, so Justin's whole life could be riding on this. I'm in Jackson, Tennessee, working with a defense team on a homicide. There's a lot riding on this for both myself and for Justin Williams. Hey, good morning. You're here? Cases don't get much bigger than this for a PI, but I'm up for the challenge. Hi. I'm good. I'm Heather Cohen.
Justin, Heather is the private investigator. Gotten her on board. She understands there is a self-defense issue there.
The state has to prove that what Justin did was intentional. And it's my job to prove that it wasn't. So did the kids actually see you being arrested?
They knew their dad went to jail.
Have you been able to see them since you've been in jail?
I see them on video sometimes. It's probably still, you may not never get to see it again. You know, hey, sorry, hey, you know, 5-year-old man.
Seeing Justin break down like that was really hard. As a mother myself, I feel for him. I need to understand the timeline better.
My son gonna go to the river.
Okay, so you get there about 3 p.m. and your
Yes,
son
ma'am.
was going there to drill out.
Mr. Tender and his wife come in, and we haven't had a talk with him before, but down with him.
Would you say he was already intoxicated?
They just slur his words a little bit.
What about his wife? What was her demeanor like?
And her got into this, they put with this more alcohol. She kind of know, you know, so they got into it.
Hearing about a possible altercation between William Tinker and his wife is definitely something that I want to follow up on.
Heather's like this man, she started getting kids. All right, so where are y'all going? I said, man, so we gonna head to the house, you know. I said, no, you can't go anywhere.
If William Tinker is threatening to rape Justin's wife, Taylor, in front of the kids, and I can see how that would be a really scary situation.
They grabbed a hold of me, trying to get up, it's not sit down. They grabbed a hold of my leg and I get up, pulled it out from under me. When he pulled it out from under me, he stabbed me with a knife. His wife started screaming, and that let me break loose from the guy. He's chasing me back to my vehicle. Heather told me her rifle. When she told me her rifle, I turned around. I fired the shot.
When I'm working a criminal defense case, I can't take anything for granted. Just because the client says something doesn't necessarily mean that it's true.
With the lack of evidence to support Justin's self-defense story, and the victim's wife Abigail seeming to suggest that Justin was the aggressor, I think police thought it was cut and dry, and they charged him with first-degree murder.
My job is to get justice and to make sure that if this man really was protecting his family, that he doesn't spend the rest of his life in jail because of it. I meet a lot of people in this line of work, and some of them are liars, and some of them are telling the truth. The trick is to figure out which is which. I need to check out the crime scene so that I can get a better understanding of what happened that night.
My assistant Tracy is coming with me. We met about 6 years ago on another case that I was working.
Tracy should know I drive just as crazy with her in the car as I do without.
I'm in the car, makes a difference.
No, it doesn't.
She's like my second mother. She's my rock.
Justin's attorney Marcus and his partner John are taking us through their theory behind the case at the crime scene.
There's the water, there's the fire. William's gonna be up from there. Justin standing here.
Justin says he was stabbed with a knife, but it seems like that was never really checked out by investigators. There are no photographs or reports to prove that they ever investigated that, and that's concerning.
So he's between what he perceives as the threat, because he's already been cut by this knife, and this person is coming at him. He puts himself between his children, his wife, and the threat.
And now they're in the car.
Tinker is closing the gap, closing
Right.
the distance on him, becoming a greater threat to him.
She had her gun. I turned her to fire a shot. When I fired that shot, I told him to drop it. He had like a buck knife in his hand. And he launched at me. When he launched at me, I fired another shot. I had it at a 45-degree angle.
He said the first shot went over top of him as a warning shot. As that threat comes closer to him, there's a greater chance that that second round is going to impact the victim.
Justin doesn't know it yet, but the second shot actually hit William Tinker, and he's bleeding out.
He turned around. He turned around like he's my vehicle, not a lead. I figured, hey, he's going back to this team. I scared him off. He never did drop right at me. If I known that man was hit, I would have hit him. I would have lifted him up myself in that car and took the hospital.
He didn't fire this from the shoulder, he fired it from the hip. And this is a defensive posture. He's in fear of his life, he's scared.
If he was only aiming slightly to the right, then it would make sense that as he's moving this way, he ran into the path of the bullet.
He says on multiple occasions, Justin does, he says, if I would have known that I had shot somebody, I would have stopped and helped him. If a guy's coming at you with a knife, you go one step above that. I mean, it's that simple. And I will use Heather to basically make your case for you.
Best case scenario, drop down to self-defense. A win would also be possibly if we could show in our investigation, at least that it wasn't premeditated.
I wish this never happened, but it's like, if my wife didn't have that drive on the car, what would happen?
This case is really tough. Justin has a lot stacked against him. It can be scary. It can be really scary to know what I'm up against.
All right. Hey, Justin, I wish I could give you a hug, but virtual hug, okay?
I want to believe Justin's version of events, but I'm going to need the evidence to convince me.
I need to know more about the injuries the victim William Tinker sustained when he was shot.
The autopsy diagram, the pathologist explains the gunshot as left to right, front to rear, which would indicate an angle kind of like this. It's 11.5 inches down. So we're talking about like this, left to right, front to rear.
This isn't really about whether or not Justin Williams shot William Tinker, because we know that he did. The state has to prove that what Justin did was intentional. And it's my job to prove that it wasn't.
I want to go over the defense team's analysis of the autopsy one more time to understand what it suggests may have happened that night.
So Justin wasn't actually aiming at Tinker. He was firing the warning shot, but when Tinker lunged at Justin with a knife, he lunged into the path of the bullet. And that's how it got him right there. That makes sense to me.
Whatever I might think about this case, it's just not that cut and dry. Ultimately, it's the state versus us, and they have a very compelling case. Justin's version of events that night are not the only version. This is going to be a struggle.
A statement from Justin's wife, Taylor, is just so important right now. She's the only one whose testimony is going to help to prove that he was trying to protect her and the family. My name is Heather Cohen, and I'm investigating Justin Williams' case. I was wondering if there might be a chance that I could come talk to you.
I told him I don't want part of it.
This blows my mind. I just assumed that she'd want to help clear Justin's name. How can we figure out what happened if we can't get the witnesses to talk?
I have no idea.
A statement from Justin's wife, Taylor, is so important right now. She's the only one whose testimony is going to help him to prove that he was trying to protect his family.
He just keeps on, and I just want no part of it.
I can tell she wants to hang up on me. I just have to try to convince her to help. Do you feel that he's to blame for it? Or do you feel like he was trying to protect you and the children?
You know, I really don't want to answer that, because I know everything I say is going to get used. So I just would rather not answer nothing.
All I can think is that she's worried that she might make things worse for Justin. Are you being silent because you want to help him, or because you just don't want to be involved in it?
I don't want to be involved.
I don't know what to make of this. Okay. A lot of people around here have distrust for the legal system. But you did give the police a statement, correct? Yeah. And she hung up on me. I'm tripping on this.
If Taylor shows similar resistance to testifying in court,
Justin's defense could really fall apart. Okay. I don't know what to do with that. My only other option is to speak to Tinker's wife, Abigail. But I already know from looking at the police reports that her account directly conflicts with Justin's.
Her statement suggests that the aggressor was actually Justin, not Tinker, which undermines Justin's claim of self-defense. So her testimony is key to this case. I want to go to Abigail's last known address and try to get a statement from her.
It's probably really going to catch her off guard when I show up at her house. Chances are, when she realizes that I'm working for the defense, she's not going to want to talk to me. But at the end of the day, if it really was self-defense, then it's just not right for him to pay for it for the rest of his life.
Okay, I think this is the house. This is it.
It can sometimes be nerve-wracking knocking on doors of people that I don't know. Are they going to be friendly? Are they going to be confrontational? You just never really know. I don't know. This house looks like it might be gutted. Is this house even lived in? Unlike law enforcement, I have zero authority. So if something goes wrong, it's on me. Interesting. Poor house. Oh. This house has been on fire. Okay, I don't think anybody lives here. You see all the black. And I'm just thinking, what the hell happened here? And is Abigail okay? Where is she now? Someone's coming.
It got burned up inside. It's getting rebuilt right now.
Oh, it caught on fire?
Yeah.
How long ago?
Over 8 months.
Over 8 months. Okay. Do you know where they're staying? Was it Abigail?
Staying in the apartments. Yeah, she's not. I don't know where she.
Oh, she. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I need to call Marcus. Hey, this house caught on fire. It's being rebuilt.
More information we got on Justin Williams' case.
Marcus tells me that there's some other things in Justin's past that could impact this case.
It's going to make the case a lot more difficult to work.
You're kidding me.
Like,
private investigator, they had this picture in their head of the guy.
Justin Williams' case is going to make the case a lot more difficult to work.
It turns out that Justin has previous charges against him for an unrelated offense. I don't like to be surprised, and I think my biggest concern with this information is that it could be something that makes him look really bad. While I'm waiting to hear more detail about Justin's charges, I have to prepare as if we're going to trial. When they look across the courtroom, they're going to see Justin Williams because William Tinker is dead. If it goes to trial, it will most likely be in Hardin County, where this happened. I've been connected with Mr. Will Lewis, and he has some information about Hardin County that I think is going to be really useful in our investigation for Justin Williams' defense.
I grew up there, and so there's several things that if you're not from the area, you're not going to know. Like the location, for example, where the murder allegedly took place. The beach that it occurred on is called Welfare Beach, and well, that's where all the junkies go. A jury of their peers of the location, and they're going to assume just automatically that if they're on Welfare Beach, they're no good.
Hearing this insight from Will is pretty demoralizing, but I'd rather know what I'm up against and use that knowledge to prepare. He went to the beach to grill out with his kids. In my mind, he's a family man who got caught up in a really bad situation.
There's potential for this to go either way. A lot of potential. So I have faith in you.
You've got my contact information, so if you think of anything else, just
sure will.
Give me a shout.
Yes, ma'am. You can have that.
Can never have too many things. The fact that we could be potentially walking into a hearing where our jury already thinks that Justin is guilty makes me think that what I need to do is level the playing field. I need to look into the victim's background. Hey, Justin. I understand from Marcus that you had some other charges, and I worry that the prosecution might try to use those against us at trial.
I was charged with sexual battery and aggravated.
This was 16 years ago?
Yes, ma'am. I was 21-year-old. The girl was 16.
Even though it's nothing to do with Justin's case right now, stuff like this is really hard for a jury to ignore. I'm afraid I can't help him to redeem himself from this. Assuming that Justin is telling the truth, in a situation like this, I need to fight fire with fire. I need to look into our victim's background too. And to do that, I have to get all criminal records that he may have had. I want to know whether there's anything in Tinker's past that reveals a history of violence that would help us to support Justin's claim of self-defense. All right, so here we go. My assistant Tracy is coming with me. I'm pretty sure the prosecution is digging into Justin's past as well, so we better make sure that we're prepared.
Yes, ma'am. I need to get some records from investigating a homicide that I was court appointed to investigate, and you guys have some records on an individual here that has been arrested here before. Okay. His name is William Tinker.
Okay,
Thank you. Bye.
We found these records on William Tinker. What I see is that on January 31st, 2018, there was an order of protection taken out, but that was never dismissed. That was still open from what I can tell at the time that he was killed. It looks like his probation was violated. So at the time that he was killed, he had been charged and was going back to jail. Finding out that the victim, Tinker, was actually wanted by law enforcement is great news for our case. If they want to bring Justin's past up in court, then they're going to have to be prepared to answer for Tinker's past as well. They can't play him as the innocent victim. Now that we know that William Tinker was wanted by the police when he was killed, I bet there's a lot more to find out online. As a PI, I have access to public record databases as well as some pretty advanced data research software that has information on everything from known addresses to what kind of car a person drives and even where their car has been in the last 30 days or so. As good as the pro databases are for finding records, often you have the greatest success with social media, so that's usually where I start. So, looking at William Tinker's background. This is the victim. See what you can find on that. This is William Tinker's Facebook. This is the victim. That's him. I'm searching through William Tinker's page, and I noticed that there are a few comments on his pictures from the same woman, so I clicked on her profile.
It says, feeling blessed with my honey, one of the greatest nights of my life. Okay, so that must be his ex. I need to talk to her.
As a PI, you have to take advantage of every opportunity, and right now, I need all the information I can get. Every single scrap of info could be vital to this case. While we do have official records on William Tinker, if we're going to convince a jury that Justin was acting in self-defense of his wife and children, personal stories could really go a long way.
Since he's deceased now, maybe she'll want to talk to us. Maybe she'll tell us if he had a history of domestic violence.
Okay, so I'm gonna drive over to Chester County and see if they have any records on this guy. And while I'm doing that, can you try to get his ex on the phone?
Okay, we'll get to work.
I have a lot to do today. I need to try to get the criminal records for William Tinker. Hello? I'm a licensed private investigator, and I was assigned to investigate the murder of William Tinker. I believe that's your ex-boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe you can tell me just everything you can. Just anything you can about William Tinker.
He was abusive.
Oh my God, so he was abusive. Would you say, does that mean he was a violent person?
I'm trying.
He's potentially volatile. Hearing that William Tinker was abusive in one of his past relationships is huge in my mind. It shows that he's potentially volatile, just like Justin's statement suggests.
Tracy and I returned to Crump in Tennessee to look through the files that the police have sent us on their investigation.
You know, there just really isn't a lot to the file. Trying to piece things together from the police file is almost pointless.
The first thing I noticed is that there are no crime scene photos. Nothing. The only record of what the scene looked like that night was what was aired on the local news.
I cannot believe that the police and their investigation do not have any crime scene photos. Are they just not getting it to you, or?
No, it's not there.
Wow.
I've been a PI for 6 years, and I've never seen anything like this before.
At this point, I'm even trying to determine whether I feel like there's even enough for an indictment.
The view of his legal team is that Justin's case does not meet the standards for first-degree murder.
The more that I look at this case, the more that I question how law enforcement could have thought that Justin intentionally shot this man. Based on the evidence that I've seen, I really don't think they have anything to prove that.
It's great to get to make your acquaintance over the phone, Heather.
I'm driving home and I get a call from the last person I expected to hear from right now, the district attorney in Justin's case.
Our goal, and I won't take my eyes off of it, is making sure that justice is done, whether that's letting Mr. Williams go free or whether that's trying my best to lock him up. That's what I'm going to be trying to do.
Not only has he heard about my investigation, but he's taking it so seriously that he wants to arrange to meet with me immediately to discuss it.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a phone number to call when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye.
That was Matt Stowe, the DA, getting that call. It's really promising because it tells me he's listening, he's taking me seriously, he's not brushing me off. But I have some things going against me. You know, one is that I'm a female. The other is that I'm a private investigator. And some people in the legal community kind of see me as an inferior.
Without any proof that Justin acted in self-defense like he said, and Tinker's wife Abigail seeming to suggest, according to her statement, that Justin was the aggressor, I think the police thought it was cut and dried, so they charged him with first-degree murder. So if it goes to trial, who are they going to believe? My client, Justin, admits that he shot William Tinker, but he's always maintained that he was firing a warning shot from the hip into the darkness after Tinker stabbed him and threatened his wife. With the lack of evidence that I have and the police file offering so very little insight into what happened that night, I think we're going to have to bring in some experts to try to prove that Justin was acting in self-defense.
God, this place gives me the creeps.
All right, so I'm going to measure it and set the height for 55.5 inches.
Eric Warren and Sam Spencer are experts in crime scene analysis and evidence gathering. They've designed an experiment to help us to understand the mechanics behind the shooting. This experiment is going to be key in establishing whether or not Justin is telling the truth when he says that he shot from the hip. The entry and exit wounds were in Tinker's upper chest area. According to the autopsy, it's a height of 55 inches. We've set up a tripod to represent where Tinker was standing, and we'll walk to where Justin says he was standing to see if the trajectory angle matches up with his story.
So I've got a trajectory rod here and I've got a laser, and we can attach it. So now we can see where the laser is aiming.
The laser represents the path the bullet may have taken from Justin's gun. Normally, when you fire a gun and you're aiming it, you shoot from the shoulder so that you can look down the sights.
And it will give us an idea of where it would be coming from.
Right there.
Yeah, you'll actually be able to see it kind of going down the barrel. Yeah. And you can see, at least from her standing here, to make that shot, it is hip. It is down at the hip.
The fact that the laser is hitting her waist shows me right from the get-go that the barrel of the gun was considerably lower, down by Justin's hip. It's much easier to believe that someone was firing a warning shot if the gun is down by their hip. This experiment is really going to help us to determine it was self-defense and not premeditated murder.
You're shooting somewhat into the darkness as a way to fend off an attacker so that you and your family could leave.
After seeing this, in my opinion, there is no way that Justin intentionally shot Tinker. This can't wait until trial. With the data from this experiment and the new information on William Tinker's background, we have to take this to the DA right now. As long as everything we need is in this one. So I managed to get the DA on the phone yesterday, and after telling him some of the things that we've uncovered in our investigation, he wants to meet with us right away. He seemed very concerned that there's a chance that Justin could be innocent. I just hope that we've done enough.
I can't help it. I'm a perfectionist. That's just how I am. I know.
What is happening? If the DA doesn't let Justin walk, there's always a chance of a lesser charge, maybe something like reckless homicide. We might still go to trial, or he might get out for time served. I'm feeling really nervous. This is where our entire investigation has been leading. Justin's life could literally be on the line right now. Justin's attorney Marcus is here, along with his partner John and my assistant Tracy.
It's great to see you all. So how many shots total
is he going to say we're fired? Is he going to say I fired one warning shot and 2 shots into the dark?
Or say you fired 2 total.
2 total.
You know, we've done it trajectory experiments, and there's just no way he could have made it up and just had it to, like, everything to line up the way it did.
Okay.
Matt's giving me nothing right now. I can't tell what he's thinking. Tinker had a history of violence and a record request to Chester and Madison counties, returned arrest and or charges for assault.
When I show him how the police investigation has been done in this case,
I'm pretty sure it's going to get him thinking about whether the state has met the burden of proof that it's going to take to prosecute it.
And trying to get dash cams, body cams, things like that, but none of that.
I asked. Nothing. And hopefully Justin will be let free.
So there's a lot to unpack here. We've got the 2 basic questions I asked you. Is he guilty of first-degree murder? Is he guilty of any sort of homicide?
This is a real make or break moment.
my investigation has uncovered a variety of evidence that seems to support the theory that Justin was acting in self-defense. I just hope that we've done enough to get it across to the DA.
I would be concerned and I would be taking action for a lot less than what he brought to the table today.
Honestly, the DA taking all of the information that I've uncovered so seriously. Not only am I happy for Justin, but I also feel validated as a PI. We've all invested so much into this case. I can't even think about this not going our way. Could it have gone any better?
He's now looking at that case differently because we've shown him here are the problems that you're going to have when you go to trial.
I felt very validated today. Okay. All right, thanks for letting me know. Bye. Well, that was Justin's attorney, Marcus. And despite all of our hard work and all of the evidence that we put together that seems to support our theory that Justin is innocent, the DA has decided to go ahead and prosecute him with first-degree murder. It's not the outcome I was hoping for, but I think we're ready. I think that we have managed to put together a really strong defense for Justin, and I still have faith that he's going to walk a free man at the end of all of this.